You're not here by accident. You felt it, the pull to break free from the noise, the herd, the endless chase for validation that leaves most men drained and directionless. You're here because you sense there's a different way to live, a path forged by those who don't follow, don't lead, but walk alone with purpose. Welcome to the Sigma male community, where we don't just talk about strength. We cultivate it in silence, away from the spotlight, where true power is built. Today we're pulling back the curtain on 11 Sigma male habits that no one sees, habits that fuel the quiet dominance of men who refuse to play by anyone else's rules. These aren't the flashy moves of the alpha or the passive compliance of the beta. These are the unseen rituals of men who master themselves first and the world second. If you've ever wondered how Sigmas operate with such effortless control, how they seem to bend reality to their will without breaking a sweat, you're about to find out. Let's dive in. 1. The Silent Sanctuary, Solitude Reimagined. Forget loneliness. The Sigma builds fortresses of solitude that aren't about escape but about empowerment. This isn't hiding from the world, it's a calculated withdrawal to a space where the mind becomes a weapon and the soul finds its edge. Picture a man alone in the pre-dawn stillness, not running from life but forging it anew in the crucible of silence. Here, deep reflection isn't passive musing. It's a strategic overhaul, a place where the chaos of the world is stripped away, and only the raw signal of purpose remains. The Sigma doesn't flee to this sanctuary because he's weak. He retreats because he's wise, knowing that clarity is born in quiet, not clamor. While others scramble for connection, he connects with something greater. Himself, emerging not depleted but electrified, every fiber of his being aligned with intent. This solitude is a proving ground, a relentless training camp where the inner critic doesn't destroy but demands excellence. Imagine the Sigma wrestling with a tough decision, not in a crowded room, but in the stillness of his own mind, dissecting every angle with surgical precision. He doesn't need a cheering squad. He's his own coach, pushing harder than anyone else ever could. The world sees absence when he steps away, but he's cultivating a presence so potent it's almost tangible when he returns. This habit isn't about isolation for its own sake. It's about building a mental fortress where distractions dissolve, and focus becomes unbreakable. In this silent space, he sharpens his will, hones his vision, and prepares to execute with devastating accuracy. The Stoic thread here is undeniable. True strength lies in self-reliance, in needing nothing beyond what you can forge within. The Sigma doesn't crumble under solitude's weight. He thrives in it, using it to strip away illusions and confront reality head-on. Think of a warrior retreating to a mountaintop not to hide, but to strategize, returning with a plan no one saw coming. This sanctuary is where he masters the art of detachment, not from feeling but from the noise that drowns it out. It's where he learns to hear his own voice above the crowd's roar, to trust his own judgment over fleeting opinions. This is no passive retreat, it's an active conquest of the self, a daily ritual that fuels his quiet dominance. And when he steps back into the world, it's not as a loner, but as a force, calm, collected, unstoppable. Solitude for the Sigma isn't a weakness to overcome, it's a power to wield. He doesn't just endure the silence. He commands it, turning it into a forge where his goals are shaped, his doubts are burned away, and his resolve is tempered like steel. While others chase fleeting distractions, he builds an empire in the quiet, one thought, one decision, one unshakable moment at a time. This is the silent sanctuary, not a hiding place but a launchpad for a man who answers to no one but himself. 2. Anti-validation fuel, internal drive amplified. While the world scrambles for likes, claps, and fleeting praise, the Sigma runs on a fuel so potent it needs no external spark, pure, unfiltered internal drive. Picture a man grinding through a late-night project, not for a boss's nod or a crowd's cheer, but for the sheer satisfaction of cracking a problem wide open, alone. External rewards? They're static on the line, irrelevant to the hum of his own engine. His victories are private, benchmarks he sets, boundaries he shatters, skills he masters with no one watching. This isn't ego, it's a bone-deep belief that the only approval that matters is the one he grants himself, forged in the fire of relentless self-discipline. This internal drive is a closed system, immune to the whims of opinion or the sting of criticism. Imagine him facing a setback, not whining for sympathy, but dissecting it in silence, logging it as data for the next move. Discipline isn't a burden forced upon him. It's the steel scaffold he builds around his ambitions, brick by brick, day after day. He doesn't need a pat on the back to keep going. He's fueled by the quiet thrill of progress, the kind that doesn't need a witness. The Sigma doesn't chase gold stars. He chases mastery, and when he hits his mark, the victory is his alone, a silent roar that echoes in his chest. Stoicism weaves through this habit like a steady pulse. Focus on what you control, release what you don't. The Sigma doesn't waste energy on the crowd's applause or scorn. He channels it into his own growth, his own path. Think of a craftsman shaping a blade, not for display but for use, honing it to perfection because that's the standard he holds himself to. He delays gratification not out of masochism, but out of trust in the process, knowing the real reward lies years down the road, not in the fleeting now. This is resilience in action. A man who doesn't bend to the world's rhythm but sets his own, marching forward when others falter. This habit is why the Sigma stands apart. He doesn't need the world to tell him he's enough. He proves it to himself every day. Picture him running a marathon with no finish line crowd, just the steady beat of his own heart driving him on. He's not here to impress you. He's here to surpass himself, and that's a fire no one can extinguish. While others burn out chasing validation, he builds a legacy fueled by a purpose so deep it's invisible to the naked eye. That's anti-validation fuel. Not a rejection of the world but a transcendence of it, a power that runs on self-belief alone. 3. Pattern warfare, observational learning intensified. The Sigma doesn't just watch the world. He wages war on its patterns, a silent strategist mapping every move before it's made. Imagine him in a crowded room, not speaking but dissecting. The twitch of a lip, the shift in posture, the pause that betrays a lie, all filed away in a mental vault sharper than any computer. This isn't casual observation. It's a calculated hunt for the unspoken rules, the hidden levers, the mistakes others repeat on loop. He learns not by stumbling but by watching others trip first, turning their fumbles into his blueprint for success. Knowledge isn't handed to him. He takes it piece by piece from the battlefield of human behavior. This is active intelligence gathering, a habit that turns every interaction into a lesson. Picture him decoding a tense negotiation, not just hearing words but reading the room's pulse, anticipating the next play before it lands. He sees the hierarchies no one admits, the motives cloaked in small talk, and he stores it all, building a playbook no one else can read. Why trust blind advice when he can verify it through cold, hard evidence? The Sigma doesn't guess. He knows because he's seen it all before, cataloged in silence while others bumble through the obvious. His edge isn't luck. It's preparation honed by a mind that never stops scanning. Stoicism fuels this habit with its call for clear, rational perception. See things as they are, not as you wish them to be. The Sigma doesn't cloud his lens with emotion or bias. He cuts through the fog with a blade of logic, observing reality in its raw form. Think of a general studying enemy lines, not out of paranoia, but out of mastery, ready to outmaneuver before the fight begins. This detachment isn't coldness. It's clarity, a refusal to let feelings distort the data. He learns from others' failures not to gloat, but to grow, turning their chaos into his calm, their missteps into his strides. This pattern warfare makes him a ghost in the machine, present but untouchable, always a step ahead. Imagine him sidestepping a trap others fall into, not because he's psychic, but because he's already seen the signs play out a dozen times. He doesn't just react to life, he predicts it, shapes it, owns it. While others drown in the noise of trial and error, he rises above, armed with insights they'll never grasp. That's the Sigma's power, not in loud proclamations but in the quiet, relentless study of the world's rhythm. A rhythm he bends to his will without ever breaking a sweat. 4. The architect's blueprint, minimalism as strategy. Minimalism for the Sigma isn't a fad. It's a blueprint, a ruthless design for a life that cuts through the fat of existence. Every item, every bond, every minute faces the same unyielding question. Does this serve my purpose? Picture him standing in a room stripped bare, not out of poverty but precision, surrounded only by tools that sharpen his edge. Clutter isn't just stuff, it's mental weight, emotional baggage, obligations that drag him down. He builds a lean machine of a life. A few high-value possessions, a tight circle of allies, a schedule that's a fortress against waste. This isn't deprivation, it's freedom, engineered with an architect's eye. This curation creates space, not just physical but mental, a vast arena where focus thrives. Imagine him ditching a dozen shallow friendships for 3 ride-or-die confidants, not because he's aloof, but because he knows depth trumps noise every time. He doesn't hoard, he selects, crafting systems so efficient they hum with purpose. A wardrobe that's all utility, a day that's all impact. While others choke on excess, he glides through the void he's carved, every move deliberate, every resource primed for action. This habit isn't about less for less's sake. It's about more clarity, more power, more room to build what matters. Stoicism runs deep here. Live simply, focus on the essential, let the rest fall away. The Sigma doesn't need a mansion to feel rich. His wealth is in his mind, his time, his unshakable core. Think of a monk shedding worldly ties, not for piety but for strength, unburdened by what doesn't serve the mission. He doesn't chase status through stuff. He finds it in sovereignty, in a life so streamlined it's a weapon. This detachment from the material isn't loss, it's liberation, a refusal to let the world's clutter dictate his path. He owns what he needs and nothing more because true control starts with cutting the fat. This strategic minimalism is why the Sigma moves lighter, faster, freer than the rest. Picture him pivoting to a new opportunity while others are still untangling their mess. Unencumbered, ready, lethal in his focus. He doesn't just declutter his space, he declutters his soul, leaving no room for doubt or distraction. While the world drowns in its own excess, he rises, a master of his domain, proving that less isn't weakness, it's dominance. That's the architect's blueprint. A life so sharp it cuts through the noise, built not to impress, but to endure, to excel, to win. 5. Steel River Flow, Adaptive Thinking Unleashed. Rigidity is a death sentence. The Sigma flows like a river, calm until it's not, carving paths through stone with relentless grace. Plans? They're sketches, not shackles. Imagine him facing a sudden storm, not raging at the sky but shifting course, finding the seam through the chaos. Obstacles don't stop him. They redirect him, each one a new piece of the puzzle he's already solving. Failure isn't a brick wall, it's a map showing him where the ground shifts and how to move next. This adaptability isn't weakness. It's steel in motion, bending without breaking, always finding a way. This fluidity comes from a core truth. Change is the only constant, and the Sigma doesn't just survive it, he masters it. Picture him ditching a dead-end tactic mid-stride, not out of panic but pragmatism, picking up a new tool before the old one's cold. He navigates social currents like a shark through water, smooth, silent, lethal when it counts, while his identity stays rock-solid beneath the surface. Others cling to sinking ships. He's already swimming, adapting to the tide with a chameleon's ease. This habit isn't about drifting, it's about steering, turning every twist into a triumph. Stoicism whispers through this. Accept what you can't change, dominate what you can. The Sigma doesn't waste breath cursing the storm. He adjusts his sails, using the wind to his advantage. Think of a warrior dodging blows, not out of fear but strategy, striking back when the moment's right. He doesn't mourn lost plans. He builds better ones, each shift a lesson in resilience. This rational flexibility keeps him unshaken, turning adversity into fuel, chaos into opportunity. He's not a victim of circumstance. He's its architect, rewriting the script as he goes. That's why the Sigma thrives where others crumble. Imagine him outpacing a rival not by force, but by pivoting faster, smarter, smoother. He doesn't fight the current. He rides it, using its power to propel him forward. While the rigid snap under pressure, he flows, unbreakable, unstoppable, a force of nature in human form. This steel river flow isn't just survival. It's supremacy, a habit that turns the unpredictable into his playground. The world changes, he doesn't, he adapts, and in that lies his quiet, devastating power. 6. Emotional AIKIDO, Mastering Internal Currents. Don't mistake the Sigma's calm for a lack of fire. He's a volcano contained, emotions running deep but never wild. Picture him feeling a surge of rage, not lashing out but redirecting it, channeling that heat into a laser of focus that cuts through any obstacle. Outbursts? Pleas for pity? Not his game. He's mastered internal AIKIDO, taking the raw energy of anger or fear and flipping it into cold, hard resolve. This isn't bottling it up, it's wielding it, turning what could destroy others into the fuel that drives him forward, silent and precise. He watches his emotions like a scientist studies a storm, curious, detached, in control. Imagine him pausing mid-conflict, not to stew but to dissect. Why this sting? What's the root? Then, instead of drowning in it, he pivots, using that insight to sharpen his next move. This isn't numbness, it's governance, a refusal to let feelings hijack his mind. Where others spiral into drama, he glides above, harnessing the undertow to push him toward his goals. The Sigma doesn't suppress his humanity, he commands it, making it a tool, not a tyrant. Stoicism is the backbone here. Emotions don't rule, reason does. The Sigma doesn't deny his anger or sadness. He masters them, aligning them with his purpose like a warrior honing a blade. Think of a martial artist deflecting a strike, not out of weakness but strength, turning the enemy's force against them. He stays steady when the world shakes, not because he's cold but because he's disciplined, redirecting chaos into clarity. This control isn't effortless. It's earned, forged through a relentless grip on his own soul. That's why he's unshakable. Picture him facing betrayal, not with a shout, but with a quiet step back, energy intact, focus unbroken. He doesn't waste tears or tantrums. He saves his power for what matters, striking with precision when the time's right. While others burn out in emotional quicksand, he rises, turning inner storms into quiet victories. This emotional Aikido isn't just survival, it's dominance, a habit that makes him a master of himself first and the world second. That's the Sigma's edge, not loud fury but silent, unstoppable force. 7. Predatory observation, the hunt for insight. Step past casual glances. The Sigma hunts insights like a predator stalks prey, silent and relentless. Imagine him at a table, not chatting but scanning. A nervous tick, a forced laugh, the weight of what's unsaid, all meat for his mind to devour. He enters rooms not to mingle but to harvest, eyes piercing through the masks people wear. This isn't paranoia, it's mastery, a constant sweep for the tells that reveal truth, weakness, power, intent. He doesn't just hear words, he reads the rhythm, the gaps, the story beneath the surface, building a map no one else can see. This hyper-awareness is a weapon, sharpened by years of quiet study. Picture him clocking a subtle power play in a meeting, filing it away, knowing who's pulling strings before they even twitch. He doesn't guess motives. He decodes them, catching the flicker of insecurity or the bluff in a bold voice. Others stumble through life blind. He moves with night vision, seeing what they miss because he's trained himself to look deeper. This habit isn't passive. It's active, a relentless pursuit of data that turns every moment into a lesson, every person into a puzzle solved. Stoicism drives this. See reality unfiltered, not through the haze of hope or fear. The Sigma doesn't project what he wants to see. He digs for what's there, raw and real, like a hunter tracking prints in the dirt. Think of a chess master reading the board, not just the pieces but the player's mind, calm, cold, calculating. He uses this clarity to anticipate, to sidestep, to strike when the iron's hot. It's not about manipulation, it's about preparation, a refusal to be caught off guard in a world that loves to blindside. That's why he's untouchable. Imagine him dodging a trap not by luck, but by foresight, already 3 moves ahead. He doesn't just react, he predicts, positioning himself with a predator's grace while others flail. While the world chases noise, he stalks signal, turning observation into power no one sees coming. This predatory observation isn't just a skill, it's a superpower, making him a ghost who knows your next step before you do. That's the Sigma. Not loud, not obvious, but always watching and always winning. 8. The invulnerable fortress, energy filtration. The Sigma's mind is a fortress, impenetrable to the psychic leeches that drain most men dry. Picture him brushing off a guilt trip like dust, unfazed by the chatter of negativity or the pull of drama. He's built filtration systems so tight that whining, manipulation, and victimhood don't even breach the gates. They're stopped cold, neutralized before they touch his peace. This isn't heartlessness, it's survival, a fierce guard over his most precious asset, mental energy. He spots energy vampires a mile off and cuts them out with surgical silence. No fuss, no fight, just a wall they can't climb. This habit is about more than dodging the bad, it's about curating the good. Imagine him choosing a handful of souls who lift him up, not drag him down, a circle so tight it's a steel ring of trust. He seeks places that feed his fire, quiet trails, deep books, hard challenges, not the shallow buzz of pointless noise. Others waste themselves on petty battles. He saves his strength for the wars that matter, every ounce of focus locked on his path. This isn't selfishness, it's strategy, a refusal to let the world siphon what he's worked to build. Stoicism runs through this like a riverbed: control what enters, let go of what doesn't serve. The Sigma doesn't wrestle with nonsense. He releases it, standing firm like a rock against the tide of trash. Think of a king filtering his court, not out of arrogance but necessity, keeping only those who sharpen his rule. He says no, not to hurt, but to protect his peace, a kingdom he'll die before surrendering. This discipline isn't easy, it's deliberate, a daily choice to shield his soul from the world's chaos. That's why he's a rock when others crack. Picture him walking away from a tantrum, calm as stone, energy intact. He doesn't just endure the storm, he thrives in it because he's already filtered out the rain. While the world drains itself dry on petty squabbles, he rises, fueled by a clarity no one can touch. This invulnerable fortress isn't just defense. It's power, a habit that keeps him sharp, steady, and sovereign. The Sigma doesn't just live. He reigns untouchable in a world that can't break what it can't reach. 9. Shadow work, the unseen grind. Forget the spotlight. The Sigma's real work happens in the dark, a grind so fierce it's invisible to all but him. Picture him at 2 a.m., tearing into a skill not for likes, but for the raw thrill of mastery, sweat and silence his only witnesses. This shadow work isn't for show, it's for growth, a relentless push to be 1% better, day after day with no crowd to clap. He dissects failures alone, researches obsessions no one knows about, lifts weights in an empty gym, not for glory but for the deep, quiet power that builds when no one's watching. This unseen labor compounds like interest in a secret account, stacking competence so thick it's a fortress of its own. Imagine him solving a puzzle that stumped him yesterday, not tweeting the win, but feeling it settle into his bones. Another brick in his foundation. There's no fanfare, no accountability partners, just a man and his mission, driven by a hunger that doesn't need an audience. Others flaunt their hustle. He hides his, knowing the real flex is in the results, not the noise. This habit isn't about ego, it's about evolution, a private war against mediocrity. Stoicism fuels this: focus on the work, not the reward. The Sigma doesn't chase praise, he chases progress, each step a quiet victory over yesterday's self. Think of a sculptor chipping away at marble in a dark room, not for a gallery but for the shape he sees inside. He endures the grind not for fame but for strength, building a core so solid it needs no applause. This discipline isn't loud, it's deep, a commitment to the process that turns effort into unbreakable confidence. That's why he shines without trying. Imagine him stepping into a challenge, effortless because the hours no one saw made him a titan. He doesn't need to prove anything. His shadow work already has, forging a man who doesn't break because he's already rebuilt himself 1,000 times. While others burn out chasing clout, he rises, a silent giant powered by a grind they'll never see. This is shadow work, not a burden but a blade, sharpening the Sigma into a force no spotlight could ever define. 10. Loyalty's razor edge, selective bonds defined. The Sigma's loyalty isn't a gift, it's a prize earned through blood, sweat, and unyielding integrity. Picture him with a circle so small you could count it on one hand, not because he can't connect but because he won't settle. Trust isn't tossed around, it's forged in a crucible, tested by actions, not words, and guarded like a vault. He gives his all, fierce protection, unshakable support, but only to those who match his steel, who prove they're as independent and true as he is. This isn't aloofness, it's precision, a razor's edge that cuts out the weak and keeps the strong. Betrayal doesn't get a second act. Imagine him closing a door, silent, final, no explanation needed. He doesn't waste energy on revenge. He severs, clean and cold, moving on with his peace intact. This selectivity builds bonds of titanium, rare but unbreakable, a brotherhood built on mutual respect, not convenience. You don't stumble into his trust. You earn it step by grueling step, proving you're worth the weight he'll carry for you. This habit isn't about exclusion, it's about elevation, surrounding himself with those who sharpen his edge. Stoicism threads through this: value what lasts, ditch what doesn't. The Sigma doesn't cling to dead weight out of sentiment. He lets it go, focusing on the few who matter. Think of a warrior picking his squad, not for numbers but for loyalty, knowing each one's worth their salt in battle. He's not here for the crowd. He's here for the core, a small, fierce unit that stands when the world falls. This detachment isn't cruel, it's clear, a refusal to dilute his strength with half-hearted ties. That's why his loyalty hits like a hammer. Picture him standing by a friend not with words but with action, a rock when the storm hits. He doesn't collect people. He curates them, building a family of titans who die before they'd break faith. While others drown in shallow connections, he thrives in the deep, his bond's a fortress no one can breach. This razor edge isn't just a habit. It's a code, a testament to a man who knows trust is sacred, and only the worthy wear it. 11. Lone wolf diplomacy, strategic engagement. Don't confuse his solitude for weakness. The Sigma's a lone wolf with a diplomat's finesse, engaging only when it counts. Imagine him stepping into a room, commanding it, not with noise but with presence, then vanishing once his goal's locked in. He can charm, negotiate, lead with chilling skill, but it's a mask he wears, a tool he wields, not who he is. This isn't aloofness, it's strategy, a calculated dance with the pack that ends the second his purpose is served. He's in the game but never of it, a shadow that moves with purpose and slips away unscathed. This engagement is pure precision. Picture him sealing a deal, every word a scalpel, then retreating to his own world, untouched by the fray. He doesn't linger for applause or small talk. He strikes, succeeds and steps back, his energy too valuable to waste. Others chase social clout. He uses it, bending the crowd to his will without ever bending to theirs. This habit isn't isolation. It's sovereignty, a refusal to let the world dictate his rhythm. Solitude isn't his cage, it's his throne, and he leaves it only when the mission demands. Stoicism anchors this, be in the world, not owned by it. The Sigma doesn't crave the stage, he commands it when he must, then sheds it like a skin, staying true to his core. Think of a spy slipping through a gala, not there to party but to win, every move deliberate, every exit planned. He's not swayed by the herd's pull. He uses it, a master of detachment who turns connection into a chess move. This rational distance keeps him free, his power rooted in choice, not obligation. That's why he's magnetic. Imagine him leaving a room and everyone feels the void, craving more of a man who needs nothing from them. He doesn't just navigate life, he owns it, dipping into the fray with a wolf's grace and retreating with a king's calm. While others drown in the social swamp, he rises, untangled, unstoppable. This lone wolf diplomacy isn't just a habit, it's a lifestyle, proof that the Sigma doesn't follow or lead, he rules quietly on his own terms. You've just cracked open the 11 unseen habits that make the Sigma male a force, secrets forged in the shadows beyond the reach of the herd's noise. These aren't just traits, they're a battle-tested code for men who reject the script and write their own. At Sigma Male Community we don't peddle hype. We deliver the raw, unfiltered wisdom you need to master yourself and carve your path. If this hit you square in the chest, if you feel that spark of recognition or hunger for more, don't just sit there, act. Like this video to fuel the fire, comment with the habit that hit you hardest, share it with the rare few who'd get it, and if you're already in, smash that notification bell so you never miss a drop of this truth. This isn't just a channel, it's your call to rise, to reflect, to build the man you're meant to be. Stay sharp, stay sovereign, and let's keep this journey roaring, because the Sigma life isn't given. It's taken one unbreakable step at a time.